Yeah, yeah. Today's agenda is something like we need to what are the steps was involved like while creating the services, and like I will go through walk through the overview of the service like post create. Okay, that's the agenda. Just we will go through like one by one, step by step. What are the features? What are the options we have? Okay, and why it is important to select. Okay, and what is the impact if we select and if we won't select. And first, let me check. Let me go with the required secure transfer for REST API operation. REST API means something like we know, right? IBM means since like the application program interface, and like whenever you are interacting this storage service data with some other applications, and to prevent that, like we are having different types of protocols. Okay, and here, if you observe here, we have something like HTTPS. Like this, we have different types of protocols. HTTPS is one of the one, and something like we'll have something like a HTTP. HTTP is something like a not secure. Whenever you search something like HTTP browser, and you will get one pop-up message on right side corner, something like the browser is not secured. That may be some harmful for your system or for your mobile. You'll get some kind of warning. Okay, and that means that particular DNS name is using HTTP protocol, which is unsecured. And like to prevent the credentials or data or via encryption or something, right? For that, obviously, we need to enable this REST API. And we have something like allow enabling anonymous access on individual container. And we know we can able to create a container like here in Azure Storage, right? Inside Azure Storage, after creating this storage account, you'll have an option to create a container. Inside a container, we will upload. It is something like a container is something like a folder only, and with additional features. And once you can able to create something like multiple containers. Okay, and once you create a container, right? Inside that, whatever the files you want and however you want, you can organize it. If it is a Xento or if it is a blob, you can directly upload. Okay, and in this container, right, like this right here, you can see something like allow enabling anonymous access to the individual container. Once you enable this, right, this particular container will be available public, and anyone can able to access. See, anyone can able to access. See, allow enabling the anonymous access on individual containers. Okay, if you select this, right, unauthorized users can able to access your storage account if they are having any URL or any some credentials. To prevent the accidental exposures, right? Like unexpectedly some if we like what the hackers will do, just they will type some random names and random numbers and they will try to hack your account. Something they want to capture your data and they want to do something on top of that. To prevent that accidental exposures, just we need to enable this anonymous access. And post that we have something like enable the storage account access, key access. Here keys in the sense we will have two different types of keys here. Key 1, key 2 will be there, and if you select this, you can able to see the keys. And if you won't select this, right, you can't able to see your keys. And if you want to access this storage account from different services, you need a keys or some other authentication methods you have to follow, and this is one of them. And these keys also you can able to rotate whenever you want, and you can write some automation script for that, and you can rotate those keys once in a year or once in a quarter. That is like there will be some plans, the architecture level plans will be there. Accordingly, they will rotate the keys to secure the account. And post that we have something like the default Microsoft Entra authorization in Azure portal. and this is something like Azure Active Directory kind of thing, and the RBAC kind of roles will be selected. RBAC in the sense like we will provide like what I can say in backend the connections will be authorized to this account just for prevention only. And we have something like TLS. TLS in the sense transport layer security. And here we will have different types of versions. Versions in the sense like these are the secured versions, and like whenever you are transferring your data, and there should be a something like a minimum version, like it is something like a minimum version must be applied on top of that, like it is something like the what I can say cryptographic standards. This one, and this is something like it blocks something like a TLS connections below the like something like we have 1.0, 1.1, 1.2 we have, right? And like it will something like it block any TLS connection, like if you select this 1.0, right, and like it will protect from the vulnerabilities, and like older than this, right, if any TLS versions come older than this, right, then it will block those versions, and more than that only it will allow something like that. And we have something like the permanent like permitted scope for a copy operation, and it controls like a source account from which you can perform something like the copying the blob in a sense, copying the file, and from one any storage account, uh, like by using the endpoints or within a storage account, like locking the copy source to same account only. All these kind of additional features will be added, and whenever you see something like a preview, right, this feature is not yet go live, or like they haven't already they will not allow this, they will not allow you to select this in production environments. You can use the testing purpose, but they will say like don't use this preview options in production. If you use, right, like because what they will do whenever they are launching any additional feature, first they will add something like a preview, and post that they will take all the feedback from the customers, and accordingly they will do some changes on that particular feature, and post that, and they will send to the go live, and meanwhile they will ask us to do not use in production environments which are in preview mode. And we have something like hierarchical space namespace. What does it mean? The hierarchical namespace, it is more over like whenever we select, right, here we have discussed something like Azure Data Lake Zen 2 and a blob storage. As I mentioned, the blob is something like if you won't select this option, right, by default this particular storage account will act like a blob storage. And once you select once you enable this, once you check mark this box, right, then this particular storage will act like a data lake Zen, and some additional features will be enabled automatically, like you can able to create a folders, and access control list will be enabled, and some other features will be there, and it is mainly used for big data as well. Okay, these are the features we have like in hierarchy. Like if you want to create data like Zen 2, then you must enable this hierarchical namespace. And we have something like SFTP, and this is something like related to the protocols and port 22, and like it is used in the backend by the your VMs for the storage identity, and like Unity manage the SFTP server. We have something like a SFTP servers. For that, it is mainly used. And SFTP servers are similar to the virtual machines, and where you can able to store the files. And for that, if you want to create the storage account for that, then you have to enable this hierarchical namespace. Then only you can able to select this the SFTP, or else if it is not possible. And here we have something like the networks. This one, the network file, right? This is something like to expose your storage account as an NFS3 network file share. Will NFS is something like a network file share that we will call. And like if you want to connect to that, right? Like we need for the Linux or some Windows, we need to mount that to this network file system, and suppose that only then we can able to connect and we can use these files in on premises or some other. And we have something like allow the across tenant replication. This is something like RAGRS. And when you configure this Azure Blob replication, right? There we have something like RAGRS. We have seen something like a redundancy yesterday. And like we have something like a RAGRS. And if you want to replicate the blobs, right, or like from storage account or from like other Azure AD tenants, and you need something like a global replication into a storage account owned in different tenants and like or in subscriptions. If you want to share this for in the multiple, like whenever you select this GRS, right, whether you want to choose in some other account instead of same account, you want to replicate that in other account, and there they want to read the data. Like this is we have yesterday we have seen like we have the tenant ID, and under the tenant ID like whatever the services will be created, and it will fall under in same tenant ID, and whatever the storage account you have created here, and you want to store in some other tenant ID. So for that you have to enable this, allow the cross tenant replication, cross tenant replication from one tenant to another tenant, not even subscription, tenant. Okay. This is something like a replica, and from there you can able to read the data. And we have something like access ts. These are very very important, and like you may get some questions on this in interview point of view. They may ask like what is the difference between hot, cool and cold. Like these access tiers, right? These are mainly used uh, like whenever like this storage account is mainly used to store a data, and now like we will get different types of files, something like unstructured, unstructured and semi-structured. Like that the data has been categorized, right? And see, if you're having something like huge amount of data and you want to read the data frequently, you have huge amount of data and you want to read the data frequently, then we will choose something like hot tier. Hot tier, whenever you choose that hot tier, like you will get some quick response. The data is something like ready to use, that it will be under that portion. Always the data will be easy, like always the data is ready, we can use whenever we want, but like there will be some quick response to the application whenever you are having a huge data. During that time only it will be helpful. And we have something like cool tier. Okay, like here, right, in a hot tier we will get like high latency, sorry, high throughput and low latency. Low latency in the sense quick response, and high throughput. In backend, we will have something like IOs, something like input and outputs. Okay, and like input and output is something like a read and write operations. Okay, there will be something like a high throughput if you select the hot tier. And we have something like cool as well, and it is slight higher latency compared to that hot. Okay, and like this is something like a lower per gb, and like it is something like whenever you are not doing any operations, like higher operations, then you are not using the data properly, like not properly in the sense like either you are using 30 days or 90 days, between 30 to 90 days gap, then you can go with the cool tier. And the something like we have of hot, cool, and we have something like an archive which is not exist. These two are similar, and the cold is something like just it is a backup scenario, like a rarely accessed. You can access like once in a year or twice in a year, then you can able to store the data in a cold. And you don't want You don't want to access the data, and you want to keep the data as a backup. Then we have another tier, and we have something like archive, which is not exist here. Like post creating this Azure account, we can see that option, and unless we can't see that because it is something like an archive, right? Just it will be backup. Okay, you can't able to read the data, and if you want to read the data, then you have to rehydrate the data. There is some other process for that, some other process. Okay, this is all about this uh, access TLs, and we have something like enable the large file share, and this option is something like it is mainly used in the file share, and if you select this option, that option you can able to see the file share. But we are getting by default. Okay, it's okay. And here, right, whenever you select this option, right, basically in Azure file share, we will get something like 5 TB and 1000 throughput, 1000 IOs. And like once you select this, right, you'll get around like 100 TB, and you can set up some limit, and you'll get around 10,000 or 20,000 IOs throughput. And I will show you like post creating this account, and we'll discuss that in detail. And we have something like network access. Network access is something like whenever you want to keep your account more securely, right? And we are having different types of options here. Something like enable the public access from all networks. Once you enable that, right, then from anyone can able to access from any IP address. Okay, but it is not at all good. So like we have another option, something like enable public access from the selected virtual networks. So if you enable that, you have to provide the IP addresses, like whichever the IP addresses you want, and you have to pass that range here. So accordingly, from that particular IP addresses only, it is going to allow. And we have something like disable the public access and use private access. So all public access will be disabled, and only private networks will be accepted, the virtual networks. Okay, and like if you are doing in the development or like a public data, right, on based upon the public data, then we can enable something like a public from all networks. And some production or something like some limited apps will be there some public and the private will be shared, and during that time we will select something like a public and from the VNet and the IPs. Then for higher security, we will disable all public access, and we will use only private. And we have something like the network routing. Here you can see something like the Microsoft network routing, and we have something like the internet routing. Why we need to choose this option, right? Here, if you observe the Microsoft network, in a sense, whenever you are accessing this service, this Azure account, right, this resource in other Azure resources, either you want to use Microsoft network routing or you want to use internet routing. See what it will do if you select Microsoft network routing, right, it will use Microsoft backbone network to communicate one service to another service. So it will not allow the data or communication should happen in public network. If you select this internet routing, then the data and the transformations and the connections, everything will be transferred, everything will be communicated over the public internet routing, which is not secure. And like the Microsoft network routing is more secure, and like in most of the projects, they will use Microsoft network routing. It is something like it's a backbone network. It will be used the backbone network, Microsoft backbone network. Okay. And we have something like a data protection policies. Data protection policies. And we have different types of data protection policies. Data protection policies. And let's discuss like one by one. And these data protection policies will help us to, like whenever we delete some files or like whenever we delete some containers, and if you want to retain that container at a certain time in the for that, like you have to enable all these are the recovery policies. Okay, and let's go with one by one. And we have something like enable point in time restore for containers. What it does, see, it will allow you to restore one or more entire container to a previous state within a retention window. In a sense, like whenever you want to retain that particular container, right? Uh, Container, right? Then, like within a time only, we can able to recover that point in time, or else you can't able to like what I can say, like restore that container once you pass that time. Once you pass that time, for example, like every day some what I can say, like some data was stored by using some Azure Data Factory and all, and like something like it needs to create something around 2 a.m. and the restore you restore at container, it is something like 1:59 a.m. The recovering is going to lost the file which you click. Okay, whatever the files we have, if you want to restore, then you have to restore that in a time, like at a specific time, or else it will be deleted permanently. And here also we have something like the it is on container level, and this is a container level, and it's something like specific time. The versions are done. It is on the versions and the feed and all this. This will apply on all these features. Okay, and now we have something like a soft delete. And if you have deleted any files in a container, if you have deleted any containers in any files in a container, and you want to retain that file in specific time, then like whatever the days you are going to mention here, accordingly you can able to restore that particular file. Just here I have mentioned something like a 7. After deleting my file, I can able to restore my file within a 7 days. Post that, if you try to restore your file post 7 days, right, you can't able to do that. And we have something like enable the soft delete for container. And if you delete any container, you can able to restore that container within a 7 days, or else you can't able to restore. And like whatever the time you are mentioning here, accordingly you can able to restore. And similarly on file share, the file share is something like a service. Okay, and if you delete any file share, then you can able to delete that. And we have something like the enabling version. This enabling version, what it will do, like whenever you modify any file, like each and every time it will create a new version in storage account, so that like you will have something like a backtrack on your file. And unfortunately you have done some updates and you want to restore the previous file, then you have to select this version so you can able to restore. Okay, and we have something like the blob enable the blob change feeds, right? What this enable blob change feeds will do, and what it will do, it will do something like or whenever you do some changes on file level, right? Whenever you do some modifications or whenever you create a file, whenever you do some changes, based upon that, it will capture the log information. It will capture the log information. And based upon that, like you can track the log here, the metadata. Okay, all these features we have. This is something like the version immutable, the support, like whenever you are having some support, like you'll get some that regarding that only this is. And we have something like encryption. And encryption types, we are having different types of encryption, something like MMK and CMK. MMK is something like Microsoft managed keys, and CMK is something like a customer managed key. And here, right, whenever the data is at rest, the data will be encrypted. Whenever the data is at rest, the data will be encrypted. Encrypted in the sense, even if you try to access, like the data will be stored on top of the disk, right? If someone captures the disk, they can't able to access the data. If in Microsoft internal team, right, if someone took the disk and if they try to extract the data, right, they can't able to do that. Why? Because either of the option we need to choose, either like MMK or CMK. Either you have to select either of the one option. Here, MMK is something like a Microsoft managed key. Microsoft managed key. And CMK is something like a customer managed key. Customer managed key in the sense, like to encrypt your data, one key will be created. And if you want to decrypt the data, and with the help of that key only, we can able to decrypt until unless you can't able to read. Okay. Further, this MMK and CMK will be used. See, the data is encrypted by default using Microsoft managed key. For additional control over your data, encrypt using customer managed key. Customer managed key is something like a BIOC, bring your own key. And you have to create your own key and you need to pass that key to protect your data by yourself. Okay, and here we have something like enable the support for customer managed keys, and either you want to add only on blobs and files only, or you want to add that on all files, the blob files, blobs files, and table and queue. Either you want to add it in specific, or either you want to add this encryption on all files. Okay, you need to you need to check either of the one. That is up to us based upon requirement. And so far we have seen the encryption on uh, like the data level, and we have the encryption on infrastructure level. And if you pass this encryption on infrastructure level, so the infrastructure, like whatever the details you are providing to create this account, that will be secured. That will be secured. And there is something like additional layer of encryption to protect your service on storage account level. And we have something like a tags are nothing but these tags are used for identification purpose. And these tags you can pass your the what I can say, the environment and the project details. And either we will have the groups in our real-time industries, will have the groups for each and every team. Like we can pass that group name for identification purpose, and we can pass like who is the admin or the infrastructure side, or all these details we can provide just for identification, who is managing this particular service. So if the XYZ person wants to connect to this service, and they will reach out to your team, and there will be some approvals, and post that they can able to access. And post that we need to click on next, and then we have to click on review and create. Uh, Let me create this. Let me mark this as a agent, because already we have created the blob account, right? Let me create this as a Sendo. That is enough for now. Yeah, the service got created, and here you can see, right, we have enabled something like hierarchical namespace, right? You can see the storage account name as a data lake storage. And previously we have created one more storage account, right? Let me refresh this. Yeah. Yeah. Previously we have created one more storage account, right? With this name. See, here we can see the hierarchical namespace got disabled, and you can see the service name as blob. See the difference between the blob and the Zend, because whenever you enable, then it will act like a blob. Sorry, Zend2, and whenever you disable, it will act like a blob. And we have a few more features that we'll discuss. And this is the overview page. And here, if you click on this, and you can see some. Yeah, you need to select the container, and or else you can create the new container. And if the file is exist, and we have to select this override. On top of that, that file will be overwritten, or else you can't able to upload the file. And here we have something like open in file explorer, and we can use this file explorer. This is something like a standalone tool, and where we can connect our Azure storage account from that tool, and like we can access that, and we can do whatever the things we want, and it is something like user friendly and with more features, and no need to connect each and every time to this storage account. Once you connect over there, then that is enough. And if you want to delete this storage account, you can delete this storage account. And for that, it will ask this name before deleting. We need to confirm with this name, then only this button will be enabled. Until unless this button will not be enabled. And we have something like move option. If you want to move this storage account from one subscription to another subscription, or from one resource group to another resource group, then you have to choose this option, and then you have to pass the source and target details, and accordingly from source to target, just it will be transferred. And if after doing any changes, right, if the changes are not reflecting, then you have to refresh this. And if you want to connect this storage account from your mobile, then you have to scan your this QR, and then you can access the storage account from your mobile. And we have something like CLI and PS. CLI in the sense like command line interface, and PS is something like a PowerShell. PowerShell. We'll call this as a PowerShell. And you can manage this storage account by using either of either of the one option. Okay, and you can execute these commands, and you can try to connect, and you can do some changes, you can do some testings. These are the default commands, like to share the list, or to share the queue list or the table list, or some if you want to list the Azure storage account properties or file service properties. There will be some commands, and by the help of those commands you can connect, and you can manage that from your command line or PowerShell tool. Okay, and if you want to share any feedback on this storage account, you can share from here, and they will capture. And if the feedback is common from all the users, then they will do some modification. It's not quite common. And we have something like you can see the resource groups and location, and the subscription and subscription ID, and what is the disk stage, and the tags. See, if you haven't provided these tags, right, then you can able to edit these tags post creation of this account. And you can see the performance. We have selected something like a standard, not premium one. And you can see the replication, and the account type, and previously we have one two, and now we have only one. And what is the state of this, what is the provision state, and when you have created, and all these details you can see. These are the essentials. Okay, and these are the properties. These are the properties which you can see on top. Either you can modify from here or either you can modify from here. Either of the one you can able to do. And see, this is got disabled and you can't able to enable post creating the account. And few we can able to disable and few not. And this hierarchical namespace and all not doable. And remaining things we can able to add and we can able to remove the configurations and all we can do. Let's go. And this is something like activity log. And whenever we perform any activity in the storage account, the data will be like the log data will be captured here. Okay, and by default automatically it will be done. And the tax as I mentioned previously, we are not able to do right. Just we can add some environment and we will put it as a dev and let me select some project and let me put it as fmcg for now. And I will give some group here or as a team I will add uh, I can add something like data underscore team. So if there is any issue they will contact this team directly. And post this we need to apply, then automatically this will be saved. And if you want to delete these tags you can able to delete from here. Okay, and we have something like diagnosis and solve problems, and this is quite common for all services, the diagnosis and solve problems. Because why we need this, right? The diagnosis and the solve problem, like whenever you face some issue in your storage account level, and then what you have to do, you have to describe that issue here. And once you describe that issue, and based upon that issue, you will get some documents and some information which is happened for other clients and they might have added in their documents. Okay, you may get some suggestions on how to fix that if it is quite common problem. Okay, and if you are not able to find that issue in this common list, then you have to raise a ticket to the Microsoft IT desk. Then they will pitch here and they will read your issue, go through your issue, and they will provide the resolution for you. And access management, identity access management, that we'll call it as a IAM. And here IAM, right? If you want to grant any access or any permissions to XYZ person, then we will provide not only to the person and we will provide the access to the services as well. For example, if key vault, we have something like a key vault and which secures your keys. Okay, instead of hard coding somewhere else, we will hold our keys in key vault and we will call that key wherever it's required. And if that key vault wants to read the data, or else like Azure Data Factory wants to read the data, or else some XYZ, not Azure Data Factory, some other services wants to read the data, and that needs some permissions to read the information from that particular service. If that particular service wants to read the information from other service, that service requires the access on other service, then only it can able to read. And those kind of those type of access also we will provide here. Okay, and we have something like a data migration. We are seeing like quite common nowadays because most of the organizations are moving into the cloud and a lot of data migration is happening. A lot of data migration is happening, and if you want to migrate your data into Azure environment, and based upon your details it will give the best option. And see, if I click on this drop down, you can see the multiple options, and I want to choose this Azure Storage account. And what is the transfer scenario, like move account to new subscription or move account to new resource group or move account to new region, or might the classic storage account to ARM or GPV1 to GPV2. upgrade, like upgradation in the sense like the old version to new version, the Gen 1 to Gen 2, something like that. If you choose this option, let me select something like I want to uh, just I will select something like I will select ARM, Azure Resource Group from Classic. Okay, and here if I click on this, I will select something like on-premises, local on-premises file, and transfer scenario something like into Azure Data Gen 2, and what is the estimated size, and let's take 1 petabyte, and approximate bandwidth. I will take something like 100 Gbps, and transfer frequency it is something like once. See, after selecting these options, right, and we got some suggestions here. Something like you can use something like local on-premises file upload method, or else like a AZ copy method, and data box gateway, and the REST API and SDK. And like what is the time period to transfer the data? See, approximately they give 2 days, 2 days, 2 days. And if I reduce this GB from 100 Gbps to 10 Gbps, see, the time got increased from 2 days to 12 days. Okay, and based upon your options, and it will give some suggestions, and you can choose the either of the option to migrate your data. Okay, based upon your inputs. And we have something like events events are something like if you want to capture something like uh, whenever you perform some storage, like you want some notification for that, these events will be used. And we have something like a logic app. With the help of that, we will use we will like with the help of this logic app, we will get some notifications and we can use that how we can create the events whenever the some data will be transferred or migrated, some whenever the new blob uploaded, or it's deleted, or it's created, or something happened, and the email will have something like a event schema and a event type and the endpoint. All these things will be there, and based upon that, the event will be occurred to us. It is something like a feed. It is something like a feed. You'll get some notified. For that, it is mainly used. And we have something like a storage browser, and where we can see all our services commonly. The blob service, blob container, or file share, or table, or queue, all these files in the common path, and like you can select either of the one. We have something like a partner solution. This partner solution is something like whenever you want to connect this storage service, right? Like whenever you want to, what I can say, you want to migrate, not migrate, what I can say, whenever it's just something like it's a tracking. Whenever they want to monitor something, the monitor kind of thing, to manage, like whenever you migrate your data, what this partner solutions will do, they will take some backup, and they will capture the data, and they will take a backup, and post your migration you can able to access the data, and you can remove this backup. For that it is mainly used, and you can use either of these services you can able to use. Okay, these partner solutions are taken for the backup purpose to manage your service. This resource visualizer, this is something like visualize your service, and it will take you to the home page. This is the new feature which is added newly, the resource visualizer. And it is something like we can create the diagram, and like what all the things we have here, and further. to view the resources, like whatever the resources we have, right? We can create them, and we can uh, we can choose the resources, and we will add all the resources, and we will just for the visualization purpose it is mainly used. And the data storage, and we have different types of data storages, as I mentioned, the containers and file share and queues and table storage. And the containers are something like where you can store all your data, and just like I will discuss high level, and tomorrow I will discuss in detail of these storage services. And this container, like where you can upload here, right? We need to create some container here. Without container, you can't able to upload any data, and this log will be created by default. And just I will give something like input. Okay, there will something like a naming convention or naming standards which we need to follow. Input, I will give something like input, and let me create with this name. See, after creating this container, right, I need to click on this, and I will get some option to upload. Here we are using Red like Zendo, right? We have got this option. You can create a folder, you can maintain some hierarchy, or else you can upload the file directly. Either you can drag and drop, we can drag and drop any file. Okay, just I want to drag and drop this file, just I can drag and drop something like this. Upload, that's it. Okay, yeah, I got this file now. I got this file. Or just like I can drag and drop, or else like I can browse multiple files and I can upload. We can like not only a single file, we can upload a multiple files. You can select, and if the same file is already existed, you can't able to upload once again. Okay, see, it seems like the following file already exists. The screenshot something, and if you want to upload once again, then you have to select this override. Then this upload button will be enabled. Until unless you can't able to upload. Like in most of the cases, like only few scenarios, we will upload like the customized files only we will upload manually, and the rest of the files will be automated only. Whenever you want to add some customized data into your reports, then only those files will be uploaded manually, and the rest of the files will be what I can say like uploaded by using some other services. And I will discuss these storages in detail in upcoming sessions. And all these things, the networking, as already we have discussed. Already we have discussed like the public, private. See, and these options will be modified. Okay, and the networking options all will be modified, and the access keys, right? Just I mentioned, right? And see, you can see the storage account, and these are the access keys. And if you get this access key, right, you can able to do whatever you want on top of this storage account. Because of that reason, to secure this account, and these access keys will be called in different services, and to secure this storage account, we will rotate these access keys for a while, like once in a quarter or like once in a half. There will be some standards and security standards, and accordingly the keys will be rotated. And we have something like the key one and key two, and like you can use either of the one, either of the key. Okay, the key one you can use or key two. It is not specific.
Uh,
And if you,
question.
sorry.
Sorry to interrupt. There's a small question. So, how do we rotate the keys? Like, is it using the code or do we do it manually?
Yeah, either of the way you can do. See, this Azure account will be what I can say. You can use some automation scripts for in some automation scripts will be there. Okay, with the help of that, some other team will be rotated. The security team will be rotated.
Okay, so that is not the job of the data engineer. Like, the only the
No,
security team will do that. Okay.
yeah, and but you can see the days here when this key was rotated.
Okay.
Yeah. That is not your job. They will be taken. Okay, and unlike sometimes, right, you may require these keys to pass in few in Azure Data Factory or somewhere else in Azure Database or somewhere else. Okay, it might be required. And we can rotate something like this. And today we have created it, and like post one day we can see that. And here you can see something like SAS. This will call it as a SAS, and this we will call it as a shared access signature as well. And this shared access signature, what it will do, and in account access key state, you don't have the option, what I can say, to restrict the permissions. You don't have access to restrict the permissions, but you have the option to restrict the permissions in SAS. And here you can see something like a blob file and queue and table. And these are the data services which we have, the data storages which we have. And you can select like either of the one. I can select something like a blob storage. And you can select the container, and I want only on container or file or on entire service. And you can select just I want select on container, and what type of permissions you want to give to that particular person. I want to give something like only the read permission, and what should be the timeline. And just I want to give only for one day, just you want to see some data. And for that, like just I want to give for till 19th. Okay, and the time stamp will occur on UTC only by default, and you can include any of these IP address, like a specific IP address, only from the IP address only. By with the help of this access key SAS token, he can able to access to the storage account, or else it's not possible. And this SAS will be created on top of your access keys. Just now we have seen the access keys, right? On top of that only it will be created. On top of that only it will be created, and it will have something like the start date and expiry date. And if I generate this SAS token, you will get something like a connection string and SAS token and SAS service URL, blob service URL, SAS URL. Okay, and you can choose either of the one, and you can connect to your to this storage account. But here the access will be restricted and to the IP address, and we have something like expiry date, and you have the permissions and which service he can able to access. But all these permissions we have, only he can able to access that particular service, and only he can able to read. But if you give this access keys, he can able to do anything, even he may delete permanently. Okay, that is all about the SAS and encryption. Yeah, here CMK and MMK. This is also modifiable post creating this account. And we have something like a defender. Defender is something like whenever based upon whatever the activities we have done, right? It's something like it will protect the vulnerabilities from your account. Like vulnerability in the sense like whenever you upload some data, there will be some malware or some virus that will contain threats, and what it will do, it will scan the data, and it will upload the data to secure your service. And you can see something like $0.15 per scan per GB. Okay, and you can select if it is required. The data management, the storage actions. This is something like surface to I think this is something like a framework, and they have added this actions the new. I think this is something like action is something like we need to add something like the source and the target, and automatically it will create, it will perform some action. I think so. Yes. Yeah, we need to select this subscription and another permission. Okay, let me come back to this later. I think this is not required. We'll see later. And we have something like a redundancy. Redundancy already I have discussed, and this is also we can able to modify. If I want to change this into the GS, and I can able to do this. I can able to do this. I can change that. And the data protection, and here, right, something like the soft delete, and if you want to restore the data point of time, like you can update the data as well. And the blob inventory is something like the new service, like where you can able to or track your what I can say like the audit and all you can able to track here, and like you can apply some rules and you can generate the reports on top of your data, not on top of your data, like on top of your files, or something like a static website. And we need to like if you want to use some images in some other applications we can use that. And like let me give some name here, html, and post like before that, right, we have something like I will give some XML. Just I'm giving some random name. You can give your own. Just now I have give some name, right? And like now what I will do, let me go here into container, and you can see something like a dollar web. See dollar web. Okay, now let me go to configuration settings, configuration, and let me uh, anonymous access enable. Let me enable this anonymous access. Okay, now we can able to save. Let me save this. Now what I will do, I will upload some files into this web. Let me drag and drop some image. I will drag and drop this image for now. Yeah, I have uploaded this file. Now what I will do, let me go here, properties. Let me capture this URL. Let me go back and change the access level, private and anonymous. Let it now. Let it. Now I have captured this URL, right? Now I will paste it here. I will get some error. See, I will get some error. Now what I will do, I will change this access level. Just I have changed this access level and post this. Let me refresh once again. Let me save sometime. See, now I can able to see this image. And like this I can able to call wherever it's required in my application. Something I can upload the image here. And this is all about the static website. And we have something like a life cycle management. As I mentioned, we don't have we can able to create this rule. And we have something like I will give some name, something like dev. I will give some dev for now. And here we can able to create a rule, something like we have like I have uploaded some file, and I post 30 days, and that particular service needs to move into the cold storage. Okay, and post 30 days, not post 30 days, and just I will reduce the time and post 15 days it needs to move to cold, and post 15 days, like if the file is accessing like if file is exist more than 10 days, those files needs to move into the archive stage. Okay, and if no one is accessing this file for more than 180 days, then we need to delete this file permanently. Okay, you no need to do this action manually, and if no one is using this particular file, not 180 days, I will give something like 6 months here, and post this here. I can give 180 days. If no one is using this particular file, if there is no modification on this file, then this particular file will be deleted after 180 days. This is the rule. We can set up this rule on top of your container so that you no need to do this process manually. See, sometimes due to our work, we may forget to do all these operations. Because of that reason, instead of doing this manual process, then we can able to do this. We can automate this by using this lifecycle management. And we have something like the configuration. Configurations are something like the things which we had discussed in while creating the storage account, and the cross we had discussed, and SFTP. The advisors and the recommendations is something like post creating this account, right? Like there will be some suggestions if something is going wrong, and you have to take some actions. And the endpoints, you can see all endpoints of this storage account. If required, you can use these endpoints to communicate this storage account with another storage account. And you can put locks. Locks is mainly used to delete, like either you can to protect the read only or from delete. If you add something like a read only, so that like others can able to read, they can't able to do any action on top of that. And if you put the lock on delete, and others can't able to delete any files. Okay, and then we have something like a monitoring, and you can able to track the insights and all you can take it, and the monitorings and all will be there, the logs and the monitoring will be there. And we have something like automation, and you can add some task, and you can do some automated kind of actions you can perform on top of this storage. And we have something like export the template. And see, these all the services will be created on arm in a sense, Azure Resource Management. We'll call that as a arm. Okay, and whatever the details we have provided while creating this service, and with the help of that you want to create this service by modifying this name, and you can able to do with the help of arm. Okay, and you can use the same script, and you can use some arm deployment, and with the help of that we have something like arm. Aisha, something. Yeah, Azure Resource More, not more. It is something like a Azure Resource Manager. Yeah, you can see right the resource manager, and with the help of this, right, we can able to, okay, and we can able to deploy with the help of this code. Any doubts so far in this code, like in this storage account level? Any doubts or any queries?